Another Yellowstone prequel expansion. I haven't even gotten through the first one yet, and we've got a whole line of not only prequel stories coming, but Yellowstone spin-offs as a whole. So I need to make my way, I guess, faster for the first one, but I'm only about 1.5 episodes into 1883 as we speak. That is, for those of you maybe more unfamiliarized with the Yellowstone brand, that is the first of the prequel series in line, and it's a good show, actually. It's different from Yellowstone in many regards, but there are many of the same attributes to be praised as I have frequently given Yellowstone. Quality writing, beautiful tone, and great presentation, fabulous casting, excellent high-quality writing from Taylor Sheridan, who is a mainstay at Paramount, as he deserves to be. I am very impressed with his work. But like I was saying, 1883, as early as I am into it, it is a pretty competent show. But I definitely have more of a favorite baseline with the principal program. I'm a big Yellowstone fan, and I'm sure for probably some of you who are approaching this, you're like, oh, here's another person on the internet raving about Yellowstone. For those of you who have followed the show, you get why. Maybe for those of you who are just approaching this for the first time, if you're not watching Yellowstone, you are missing out on quality programming. And there's a lot to watch these days. I get it. The streaming avenue is quickly expanding among many different markets. And every company is trying to get their pictures out and see what lands and what doesn't. Yellowstone is high quality broadcast programming / streaming. Again, depending on how you watch, I choose the latter method because I don't have broadcast television. It is one of the most competent shows that I've seen on the air today. And it's really interesting because the show is so diametrically different from other types of programs, and yet it's so surreal and missed, I would say, as an experience. It's a valuable one. It's one that I've craved for a long time, and I never realized I was yearning so deeply for as I catch up with a lot of streaming program, which by comparison, and there are some great shows, and many of which I'm sure I haven't covered yet that are probably equal in competence, but many of the shows that I have watched, unfortunately, tend to register more as homework, and they're not as highly capable as Yellowstone is. This is a very high-quality program. From the atmosphere, I mean, just being in this Montana set storyline, I want to move there. It is intoxicating, the presentation. Just being in the environment of Yellowstone is an experience in itself. But the story, the plot construction, the quality writing, the casting on a general scale, everybody in the show is great. But the writing, again, Taylor Sheridan, one of the most competent and adept writers I've seen in the Hollywood landscape. Really admire his work. So I come into this being informed, right, on the type of adventures that he employs and how successful it is within the constructions of his shows. With Yellowstone, I look at this show, 1923, and I see the capabilities. Although, again, this is very similar, I'm sure, to 1883, in that it's taking the past approach, again, like 1883, focusing on the Duttons storyline and expanding it in the past, but with very high-quality talents. I mean, even beyond, again, my familiarity of Yellowstone, I'm attracted right away. Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford. I'm fans of them both, very revered actors, especially Helen Mirren. Seeing these two come together and expand the Dutton storyline and come into the Yellowstone world, I am just thrilled by the experience. Just the idea of seeing them on screen together. In a Taylor Sheridan written series, I am very elated. And I think there's definitely good prospects going in for the show to be quite the success. I'm going to go ahead and cue up this teaser trailer. It's rather short, only about 30 seconds, but I love an early tease, and I've been waiting to see some of this show. I mean, generally, of course, I'm excited to see anything from Yellowstone, and this is not the only series coming. They've got, there's another 1883 story expansion. I think it's sort of self-contained like the first series. It's separated. It's not like a season 2. It kind of is, but it's also not. It's a different story from my understanding. But that's going to be coming out at some point. I believe it's in development. There's a 4 Sixes series that's happening, and that's based on the present Yellowstone continuity through the character of Jimmy. Love him. And that story, where that's going, I mean, it was a small arc within the Yellowstone storyline set in the 4 Sixes, but it was a nice introduction. Good backdoor. I'm excited to see where that series goes going forward. But 1923, I'm just set in by the casting. This is an immediate draw. And as a side point, I mean, this isn't necessarily relevant to Yellowstone, and more specific, I guess, to Harrison Ford. I've really enjoyed Western programming. And there's a vibe I sense with his presence here that I just wonder if Indiana Jones 5, if you've been paying attention to that movie, of course, I'm an Indiana Jones fan I like the first 4 movies, actually. I like the 4th one. I do. I understand I'm a minority in that. But the 5th one sounds like it's a bit of a mess. If you paid attention to some of the rumors, many of which have been confirmed, I'm wondering if 1923, given that, not to go into Lucasfilm drama, but Kathleen Kennedy, as far as I'm aware, has no involvement here, and Indiana Jones 5, again, sounds like a bit of a mess. They could change that. I could be, quite surprised when I get into the theater, but from what I've been seeing thus far, it has not looked pretty. I'm wondering if 1923 could serve as a nice alternative for perhaps saddened Indiana Jones fans like myself, who are looking for a stellar Harrison Ford performance set in sort of a Western adventure series, but we're not going to find that joy in a new entry of the Indiana Jones storyline and what Disney has to offer with it. I'm wondering if 1923... I'm sure Paramount would love that. Being like, hey, all of you who feel dissatisfied with Disney and what they're doing with this property, come on over here. We're doing wonders of Yellowstone. I don't know. I know it's a side point, bit of a tangent, but I do wonder if that's perhaps an idea going in. Maybe. Here we go. It's on my mind.
Violence has always haunted this family. It followed us from the Scottish Highlands, the slums of Dublin, and it followed us here.
Each story of Yellowstone has a similar tone, but the intensity and the specific events are very different.
We seek it.
I like the war setting here, a lot of conflict. Whereas and Yellowstone has plenty of conflict. I mean, it handles, again, like I said, you have the storylines for where Yellowstone goes and the sources of the conflicts and how they manifest in the series. It's really cool to see just how layered and sophisticated the show is and just how many types of story presentations it's allowed to combine into one. And each story feels so well tailored. None feel like filler or unnecessary side plots. Everything feels like it's all matching and building to this deep crescendo. It's, again, a really compelling work if you've never watched Yellowstone. But if you're approaching these prequel series going, well, maybe I haven't seen the show, maybe I want to start here. From my understanding of 1883, and I could be wrong again basing this on my early impression with the series and how limited I've stepped in the doorway of it, it is, it's still attached to the Yellowstone storyline, don't get that wrong, and the Dutton storyline's carried through, but it is isolated to its own story, so you don't have to necessarily be a follower of Yellowstone to approach those works. And I wonder if, I would imagine 1923, if it's following 1883 in the same type of expression, it's going to connect to the Yellowstone storyline, but it probably is isolated in how it's handling and presenting itself. I would imagine. But there's such a match here with the principal program. I mean, even just, again, like I said, the naturalistic imagery that you get in the series, it is so scenic and beautiful. Just watching, I feel like, honestly, I'm on a nature tour watching the series. I know Yellowstone's much more than that, but just that element in itself is so enamoring to a viewer like me who does not often see that replicated in other places. To have a show that is intentionally slower but relishes every scene, every environment that it's in, it's just such a wonderful program, and it feels so fresh today in the streaming world, but yet it feels very familiar in its sophistication. And I just admire this show so much. It really is such a beautiful program. And I like the war storyline being highlighted here. Again, it's a bit of an elevation to the literal conflict. I'm sure there's going to be more storylines that come in and evolve themselves. But I would definitely say there's an added intensity. And with the history aspect, this could bring in people who perhaps really like historical adaptations that, again, are based in a fictional storyline, but they highly ground themselves into reality for what we know through historical times. I like what I'm seeing. And it definitely, well, I mean, it's explicitly going to express that Yellowstone connection. I mean, we got the ranch right here in focus. I'm just so happy of what I'm seeing from the Yellowstone brand. If there, again, like I said, if there's any franchise to expand, if it deserves to, it is Yellowstone. Yes, it's a lot in regards to viewing, but it's quality everywhere you look. I'm just so impressed by what they have to offer. And this series, this is coming out earlier than I thought, actually. I was under the impression, maybe it's because of a title like 23. I was thinking 2023. No, December. You're going to have 2 concurrent programs. You're going to have Yellowstone on broadcast TV and streaming, and then you're going to have this on, Paramount Plus. I'm going to say this is still weird. I bring this up, I know, in every video, but it's weird for me to see, and maybe there's an agreement I'm not aware of, but Yellowstone, as I said, airs on television and then streams on Peacock as well. That's where you can watch all 4 seasons if you haven't yet. That's where I binged it. And I believe they're carrying the new season as well. You have your flagship show there, which I would definitely say, Paramount has needed a successful show. I mean, some of their other franchises, let's say Star Trek and Halo, have not proved to be on good footing with them, even though I've not really taken a venture in either vein. I'm very familiar with the fan response and some of the reports of the finances. I see things occasionally, but Yellowstone is really a dominant program on their service, I would imagine, if Yellowstone were on there. But even its expanded stories have done very well critically and with audiences. I mean, the ratings for Yellowstone for the past 4 seasons have been through the roof. It's interesting to again see a show like that succeed so wildly, and I don't see that incline often, not to the extent that Yellowstone has it, but with Yellowstone, that's on Peacock. Main show, which could serve as, this is the original reason I jumped on to Paramount Plus in the first place. It would bring in new subscribers to Paramount Plus for those of us who have not watched the show and want to get hooked on Yellowstone and get an introduction to it. But you have the flagship show separate from all these spin-off projects. I mean, maybe they'll move Yellowstone over eventually. It's just weird to me. I don't know why it is, but if you want to watch 1923, like 1883, it will be available for you on Paramount Plus. I wonder if they're going to do that that's going to be weird if they do that with the 4 Sixes series, and they have that airing on Paramount Plus, even though that's attached to Yellowstone directly as a present day, set show. And are they going to split the networks there too? It's going to be really odd. I don't know. You're kind of throwing people different ways, and people see the price tags, right? That's 2 services they now have to pay for. Whereas, if it were Paramount, you'd be making more money and bringing people into your one service rather than extending it onto a different platform. I mean, Peacock's fine. It's just weird. Anyway, 1923 looks good. I'm engaged alone of a Yellowstone attribution, but Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, easy draw for me. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts down below. Again, like I said, my impression based on 1883 is that this will be an approachable series for those of you who have not watched Yellowstone. So you will be able to approach this and not have to do all the homework if you don't wish to, even though it is highly valuable if you choose to go down that road of Yellowstone. Again, I'm telling you, it is one of the best programs on broadcast television today. I cannot stress that enough. But I'd be interested to hear your thoughts down below. Maybe you're a long-time Yellowstone fan. I'd love to hear your impression on this new prequel series as well. I do have a lot to watch. I have to finish 1883, but when 1923 airs, I'm going to start watching. I'm already on Peacock Plus. See, this is why it's such a mess up. You have to put your content on one service. Now I'm mixing up names. Paramount Plus, I'm already subscribed, so when 1923 drops, I'm jumping on immediately. Harrison Ford, again, I'm a big fan. Helen Mirren, same. And Taylor Sheridan, I've been so happy with what I've seen in his work with Yellowstone. I cannot wait to humor the possibility of an ever very well-helmed and delivered Yellowstone prequel series. I'm sure 1923 will be great. And this is a teaser trailer, and we have a little while to December 18th, so I would imagine maybe at the beginning of the month, we're going to get another trailer. So it'd be nice to get a better look at this series, but from what I'm seeing, it looks good. Quite good, in fact. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.